Hello everyone, this is Alena Lavrenteva, and today we're starting off with hardcore. It was summer, but the client came to me in warm socks. Think about it, what could this be for? And under the socks, I saw this. She told me not to be scared and that she had a little rag there. I said, okay. And when I unpacked this wonderful surprise, I realized that things weren't so great. And then she sort of nonchalantly said, oh, I have diabetes. I didn't tell you. I'm saying, no, you didn't tell me. Although before this, I saw her pictures. Actually, her sister brought her to us. And in general, there was no word about diabetes. I thought, well, an ingrown nail, nothing scary. And then such a beautiful comrade was waiting for me. It was scary, but it's this stupid case, when a client says, I won't go to the doctor. I say, and what were you counting on? That it was supposed to go away on its own. And she says, well, yes, I thought it would go away on its own. I then decided to find out how long she's been thinking like this. Well, that is, how long has she been waiting for it to go away on its own? She said she started feeling pain 3 days ago. We all understand that such a thing doesn't happen with nails in just 3 days. But the thing is that people who have diabetes, she, by the way, is on insulin, they have many different side stories. For example, her sensitivity is further reduced in her legs. And at the end, I'll show how strong her swelling is. In this video, we will focus on the right leg. There is also work done on the left leg. It's completely different. On the right one, of course, the situation is quite tough. In general, here's her story. Her nail is ingrown. She doesn't know if she hit it or not. Maybe she did hit it, but she doesn't feel anything. I know that for a fact because no matter what I do with her, well, not that I did anything super extraordinary, but just really, she practically didn't feel any of my manipulations. That is, it's not that she didn't feel pain. She didn't feel what I'm milling there, doing something, touching her leg, and so on. That is, the sensations are practically at zero. This is a very bad signal, because if the client does not give you feedback, then, of course, there is nothing good in this, and you can do something unnecessary. And I worked here as if on a minefield, because I understood that if I make some additional injury, by the way, it will appear in the end, this is also a spoiler, and it was not me who did it, you'll see. I understood that any injury is a disaster. I also understood that here, the nail plates grow from both the right and left sides. I understood that I can't work as I usually do, because she doesn't feel anything, and I can't ask her how she feels when I do this. And I also understood that, well, I need to clean up. I need to at least try to do something here. During cleaning, I realized there is emptiness and likely decay in this place. Well, actually, it comes out here. However, this was minimal as it persisted for a while. This is definitely not a 3-day situation. In 3 days, it can't become like this. In general, I made a decision that I need to approach this reversal, this emptiness, very carefully and slowly. And the emptiness is not under the nail plate. That is, not between the nail and the skin, but in the pocket under the skin. Well, I agree. Manipulation is on the edge. If someone wants to sue me or collect signatures, well, get in line. But the joke is that the woman is scared. She definitely wasn't planning to go anywhere. Well, at least at the beginning of our conversation, at the beginning of our meeting, and she, of course, believed in a miracle. I told her that I can't perform any miracle here because she has a denial of her diagnosis. During our conversation, it turned out that she doesn't deal with her diagnosis. That is, she doesn't follow any diet, doesn't regularly check her sugar. She has insulin, and she does something with it. Well, everyone who is familiar with this diagnosis knows that there is a very strict diet. You need to monitor your nutrition, your health, and so on. In general, she doesn't do anything like that. I understood she is unlikely to go anywhere. I also called my colleague Alena in Parabova, who is in Moscow, just in case. Of course, I always call and write to her for support first thing, even if it's just for moral support. She said, go ahead, I'm with you mentally. I said, okay, Lena, let me do this. In general, I was scared. I could hardly breathe. A lot of people approached me during the work process. The salon staff and girls all wanted to see. Because the danger of this ulcer also, of course, worried me very much. Because there is inflammation, there is redness, and again, onycholysis. It's there too, because something has grown here, and most likely, there was a hit after all. And besides, I really didn't like that the finger in the cuticle area is injured, and it has already turned blue. In general, I was just afraid that if the inflammation of the wound went deep, then this is not my case at all. But in the process, I managed to convince her to turn to a surgeon after all my manipulations. Fortunately, we have specialists in Kazan with whom we collaborate. That is, we work together. Therefore, during my procedure, the administrators helped, got their phone, already called, agreed on everything, and we directed her there after the procedure. I will be monitoring this. I really hope she comes back because I am genuinely worried about her. This is a very difficult moment. I couldn't cut the corner that curls up and grows into the skin because she doesn't feel anything. I didn't understand where I needed to stop. And it was holding onto the skin, all so cut through, all swollen, all inflamed. Because the wound is wet, she was in warm socks because her legs are freezing, even though it was a real heat wave outside. In general, I could not get rid of this corner at all. I, of course, did it in the end, but I was very scared because when the client is in a normal state, they tell me whether I can still push on some micron or not. But here, I had to work absolutely blindly. Here, I slightly underline, slightly pull. That is, I tried to slightly expand and probe how deeply it holds. I understood that there is an edge, a sidewall. It is connected with the tissues, and I will not be able to cut it off in any way. Therefore, I made a decision that I will hold with tweezers with my left hand from one side, and from the other side with straight cutting pieces. I will carefully cut off what I can. Because once again, you see how deeply the lesion goes in. And there is no end to it. I couldn't find it. There is a hole, a huge hole, all this in onycholysis. I understood that I need to clean as much as I can. Because then the surgeon will observe her wound, make her dressings. Well, in general, then all the doctors will lead this. Because this is not at all our responsibility zone, and I say very loudly in capital letters. This is not educational content. This is not a guide to action. This is what I did at the moment. By the way, we have already got a piece. It was so big. To be honest, all the pieces here are big. By the way, I don't recommend getting tea and cookies here, because wow, it was not just an ingrown nail, really. This situation is very serious. This is generally not an action guide. My back was covered by colleagues. My back was covered by surgeons whom we trust, here in the city of Kazan, and I knew for sure that I had support. And people really helped me with it. It all was managed from different sides distantly, so if your client comes and says that they have diabetes, especially if they're already in the chair, as it happened to me. Like when she sat down and went, "Oh, I didn't tell you this." If you are not sure, if you think you can, God forbid hurt your client, then I still advise you to refuse such a client. See, all this is wet, all this is mobile, the nail is unstable. There, of course, all this also needs to be removed. I think you've already looked at the little toe and the middle finger. It's clear that wild mushrooms are rolling around there. It's clear that the second and third finger are, well, damaged, just torn in an inappropriate way. By the way, I asked her why. She says, I can't bend over. Well, the woman has extra weight. But this isn't news, given her diabetes. Oh, this is the moment when I tried to carefully remove the dirt with just a napkin. Well, thankfully the blood stopped later. And by the way, yes, in this video I'm not trying to hide the words blood and pus, because 100% it will be blocked. So watch it while it's still here. You can try to support this content. Generally, she is unable to cut her nails as her large belly prevents her from bending over. For anyone who is pregnant, you know that tying shoelaces and other similar tasks are simply impossible. So imagine what it's like for a person to cut their nails. I asked if her children could help her, but she dismissed the idea, saying they don't do such things. But here the story falls silent. Maybe she's embarrassed, or maybe, well, the children really don't want to do this. Although I believe it's everyone's sacred duty to help their parents, especially in such a situation. So, here we continue trying to clean something up. That is, I was really working on super microparticles, so as not to do anything extra, especially when I dissected that wound. I was already all sweaty, sitting there. I was practically praying at that moment that, God forbid, something went wrong. Still, other people covering my back gave me a bit of confidence. And I also want to say that she has hardness between all her fingers. There is redness, something similar to small sores, plus a huge swelling. And, of course, all this tells us that her feet are not in good condition. Overall, her health condition is not good, of course, because of the diagnosis. She initially attributed her nail problems to COVID, saying that's when the issues began. But I think that the illness just exacerbated this condition. That is, it had worsened it. As I said before, her sister, I brought her. The sister stood next to us, showed us all sorts of moral support, tried to delve into the issue. She also really wants to help. So that sister ratted out her sibling, and she told me that when my client got COVID, she also didn't want to go for treatment. In general, we got here a person who really doesn't want to go to the doctors. There is such a category of people, and here, of course, all hope is only on relatives. That relatives will actually convince them and persuade them because they can end up without a finger. Well, that's true. And it is very necessary. You won't be able to walk without it, and you'll have to get a new one. I'm not joking now. This is completely true. Because with diabetes, any wound can turn into gangrene, necrosis, and so on. It goes deep, and you have to amputate. Well, such scary words sometimes have to be said. And I told her everything as it is. And indeed, I sincerely hope that she understood me. And somewhere deep down, she was scared enough for it to be a start for action. Here, I applied an ointment to at least slightly relieve the inflammation. But right after that, we sent her to get the necessary treatment. Those with diabetes, they go to special hospitals and doctors there deal with this issue. Of course, all of this needs to be done. And now the promised demonstration of the swelling. Well, visually it's noticeable. How to check the swelling? You just press with your finger and see if there's a dent. I press here a few times, looking for a good angle where it will be clearly visible. Look at this huge dent and how it slowly pops back into place. That's how my doctor taught me to check for swelling when I was pregnant. She said, check your legs like this. That's because I have a tendency to swell, given that I'm missing one kidney. And I really do have a problem with this. And like no one else, I know what swelling is. And here it is, quite big. And here we are looking at the second finger. This is exactly the moment when I ask her why the nails look like this. She says, well, I reach as far as I can. So basically, she trims them whenever she can. So here, I guess, I want to address the children. The grown-up children. When you see that your parents are having some problems, don't be shy. Ask, maybe they need help. Maybe be more persistent sometimes because parents don't want to bother you, just like this woman doesn't want to bother anyone. And I want her to be well. So, like this video to support this person.